Just like old times again. All day long I'm thinking about you. And when the sun goes down, you're in my dreams.
Welcome to East Coast DNA. Today's guest, Chris Kirby, is a name that has actually a couple times recently popped up. So I'm going to have to get Chris to go back and listen to the last few episodes.
Go on. Really?
And I also heard your name on something very recently that I'll get into that may be a news thing that you didn't announce on your end yet.
Okay.
But yeah, welcome, Chris. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And to kind of start off, I usually will drop a couple little intro things and get the artist to kind of take it away from there.
Okay.
When I reviewed your bios and in researching, and as I mentioned, your name's come up a few times for me recently. It's very name droppy, which is what a great problem to have.
Yeah.
But like Keith Mullins is familiar to a lot of people from this podcast that I know he played drums for you.
Keith's played on some stuff for me on a few projects.
And you've played you play keyboards for people, like you are a backup musician, you're a studio
Correct.
musician.
Yep.
You have your solo career, which we're gonna probably talk about the most here on this episode. And the reason I say probably is you're also quite the well-respected producer out there as well.
Producing is probably where I've focused most of my energy the last few years, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is probably why you're hearing my name in a name droppy sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is, that was, I don't do it for the name droppiness of it. Of course, I do it to make a living, but but it's really nice to know that that word gets around.
Well, and I know I've not had the Trews on this. They were long gone to Ontario by the time I started doing any of this. But if any of those guys happen to stumble across this, you're welcome to come on sometime. But I did see a quote there. I'm going to actually read the actual quote. I left it up just so I didn't mess it up. He's the East Coast music scene's secret weapon, Colin MacDonald, the Trews.
Yeah. Colin gave me that quote and I put it on my website.
Oh no, I love it.
I'm actually writing with Colin after this interview.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's dive into the whole thing now. If we go back a piece, I mean, you're not that old yourself in the first place, so you can only go back so far.
Right.
I know as far as your discography, you had your first album out 2009.
My first album ever, with my old band, with me and my brother and a high school buddy, that was 2003. So that's when I really started.
And were they called the Marquee at the time?
No, that was
it's a different band.
That was a band called Park, P-A-R-C. We thought we were brilliant, and we spelled crap backwards.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So, but the first Chris Kirby and the Marquee project was 2006. That album is not available anywhere anymore. So the first one that you would have found is the 2009 Vampire Hotel.
Is the 2006 one in physical media somewhere floating out there?
There's some floating around for sure. I think I still have maybe 2 or 3 copies, but I'm not going to press anymore. I mean, I couldn't find the files for that artwork if I wanted to, and
yeah,
just after so much time, perhaps I got to get out of my own head with this stuff. But after so long, you look back on certain projects, and it's like that doesn't even represent me anymore. Like, I don't play any of these songs. I don't sound like that. I'm so much better and smarter as a writer and everything. That was my first thing, and it got me lots of stuff, and it did lots of great things. But like, it's, I prefer people see me as starting for real on the album after that.
That does seem to be, it's not a trend, but it does seem to be the way that things are going as far as people curating their own digital discography now that everything's available to stream.
Yeah,
it was different back like I mean, I grew up primarily through the 90s as far as getting into music and collecting things, and, like, to get a 45 with a rare B-side or a CD single that had an extra demo or a live song or something, like, those were always cool things to have, but now that everything's available and you can just search the artist name, bring up the entire catalog, there are a lot of people that are kinda clipping out some of their early
Yeah,
days and
yeah. I
say,
mean,
"Okay, this is where I started this
yeah,
year."
and I think the big like from my perspective, I've been an indie artist my whole career, so I've always had this feeling of like I'm just getting going.
Mhm,
I'm looking for new fans. So like old fans will sure they'll listen to the first album and they'll understand that that was me when I started, but new fans won't get that. So
sure.
I have this sense of like if someone's listening to me for the first time, I only want them to hear the stuff that I would put on myself. So
And now you started off in Newfoundland, like, you're
that's
born
right.
and raised in Newfoundland?
Yep.
And so what brought you, was it doing the solo stuff and looking for gigs that brought you over into Nova Scotia, or is it the producing and being in essentially a musical hub? I mean, Newfoundland has its place for sure, and I definitely gotta pay more attention to what's going on over there in the new year. I've been saying that for a couple episodes as well.
Yeah.
But Halifax definitely does have a central location for people coming in with
Of course. Yeah.
flights or by sea, or like there's every way you can get in there.
Of course, and Halifax has been that for me for sure. I mean, we're not in Halifax, we're in East Lawrencetown, so
Okay.
we're a little bit, we still get fog, so some days it still feels like we're in St. John's.
Yeah.
Um, but I had been working a lot in Halifax anyway, because from I want to say 2012, I've been producing records here, so flying in to do them, and in fact, everybody at home, like I was, so busy either on the road or making records or whatever, I would go into like Fred's Records in St. John's, and they would ask me like, "Oh, how long you home for?" I live here. What are you talking about? So they thought I moved anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but like I had just left my job I was working as a software engineer actually when I like 2006, believe it or not, the day before I released my first album, I convocated from Mun Engineering. So I'm yeah, I'm a electrical engineer by education. Um, and I left that in 2016 to play with Matt Andersen, and I was touring with Matt, and um in 2017 my wife got an offer to come work at VIO in Dartmouth because she's a lobster biologist,
Okay.
and it was perfect timing because I had left my job, I was ready to go anywhere, and she got this opportunity, so we did it. And like I don't know if I'm more busy because I'm here or not, because like I said, I was coming here anyway,
Mhm.
but it feels like I haven't stopped since we landed. And you talk about the music scene in Newfoundland and needing to dig into it more. I think the coolest part of this whole thing was people saw me going to Halifax as sort of their pathway to uh, new networks. So,
Mhm.
like one example is Quote the Raven, a band that I've been working with for a long time now, and I've sort of I've been producing them, but also helping in the early days, helping connect them to some different people. And now they're like just now they're helping connect me to people because they've just moved and shook so much. So and there's other examples of that too, but Quote the Ravens definitely the I guess the gold standard example. I tell everybody to study what Quote the Raven has done and is doing.
Yeah, no, they were actually, yeah, they were the first of our little holiday series of episodes here, so,
Oh, great.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the places where your name popped up in that interview as well.
Yeah, well, we've been friends a long time, and we've been collaborators, I guess is the best word, a long time because I produce the records, sure, but when we make things, it's always a collaborative process.
And as far as your solo career in parallel to producing, the next couple albums, like you had a somewhat regular release schedule as far as what albums were doing at the time, but then you had a
Yeah.
large gap, and that the large gap is the big break that everyone had,
Yeah, right.
and you were producing a lot of people that were doing well at the same time. So,
Yeah.
what was the inspiration to pull you back? Like, I can see how you would organically get away from it a little bit and always still kinda have that itch that you wanna scratch. But was there anything specifically that brought you back into recording your own material again?
Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, and uh, you may be surprised to know that my break wasn't the big break.
Yeah.
I released my record after a 7-year hiatus in 2019, just before the
Oh,
break,
yeah.
and then I was forced on another break. So it was kind of frustrating because I had this like comeback thing, and I did it.
Mhm.
I had it took me a long time to reestablish some contacts, and the summer of 2020 was going to be my big year to hit all the festivals and stuff. I had
Mhm,
everything
yeah.
booked, and they all got turfed, of course. And some of them rebooked me, some of them couldn't. So I wasn't able to like really come back.
Mhm.
Um, to answer the question of why, I guess it's just we can't ever turn it off, and at some point you just gotta do it. So like I always I was always saying like I'm not gonna do another record. Like I'm a producer now and I'm a writer now and I'm making my living doing music. And as an artist, especially if I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna be starting again. I'm gonna be like going in the hole again, and I'm 40 years old. I don't have kids, but I got a wife, got 2 mortgages to take care of. You know, I got way more responsibilities financially than I did when I was starting out. So I can't just dump all my money into a record and going on the road, which is it's still like no matter how you look at how you carve your career out, you gotta invest everything you got.
Mhm.
If you're gonna, everything that you have to give, you have to give it. Um, if you want to, if you want to break out. Um, so I've sort of taken a different approach to my stuff. Like I am gonna be releasing more material, but it's more gonna be for the purpose of showcasing like what I've got as a writer, what I've got as a producer, and I'll do gigs for sure, but the primary focus is to tell the world like this is the kind of musical personality that I am. And I can play all this stuff. I can sing, I can write, I can produce, I can help you get your musical ideas out there. And that's worked very well for me. That's how I became a producer in the first place. It's funny, I was talking to him just before this call. I was I had made my record, I produced my record, Wonderizer, and I was on tour with Charlie Acourt, and he asked me to produce his album because he liked. Um, I was kind of showing him my album before it was coming out,
Mhm.
just like asking him his thoughts or whatever, and he really liked it so much that he asked me to produce his. So suddenly I was a producer, and my records were my business card.
Yeah.
So yeah, so here I am. That's what I'm doing.
That was one of my questions, actually. Was Charlie the first one that you produced?
Charlie was my first like really visible one. I had
Mhm.
produced some others in St. John's when I was, like I know they were very happy with the records, but I have learned so much since working with them that I don't think I would like I'd like to do some of those over if I could. So I don't really
Sure,
put
yeah.
those on my resume. Um, at the time we were thrilled with those, but the first one that I did for somebody else that was really visible and it won a couple of ECMAs was Charlie Acort's record in 2012. And before that, of course, my record, which came out the same year, and then Charlie beat me. So
No, that's well, I guess you kind of stack the odds in your favor that way too,
yeah,
right? Like you could do that, put your own, and then produce everyone else's that's in the same category. So
yeah. And I've also learned, that when you get to work with all these amazing people, you learn your own sort of um shortcomings, right? So I've become a different kind of artist because in the early days I thought I was going to be like Newfoundland's like Prince or something. And like I can't sing like that. I can't dance. So like I'm not going to be that kind of performer. Um so anything that I write that goes into sort of like the more poppy thing, I save those ideas for artists that I'm working with that are doing that, and they do
yeah,
well with it, right? So, and whereas I wouldn't, because I just don't like, I've got a different type of stage presence even. So I'm kind of switching gears as a performer and going a bit more sort of roots and not quite folk, but I'm sitting more into that sort of roots songwriter world, whereas before I was trying to be some kind of funk thing, right?
yeah.
So
That's. I was kind of curious about that too. That sound that you're describing there is the influence. Like you do a lot of co-writes besides producing.
big time.
So from going through the catalog, and I knew a lot of those songs anyway, so it didn't take me as long as it would seem. But I kind of got a sense for like a Chris Kirby sound on a song, a
Oh
little
wow.
bit.
Oh yeah.
But when I went back to listen to your older material and compare it with your newer singles, you've done it to your own music. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, if you were to take your first album, the 2009 album,
Yeah.
if you were to take that and then put that Chris Kirby sound of 2023 on it, you would have the sound that you now have on your new material. So is that influence just something that you've developed over time, or are these people that you're co-writing with and performing with, are their influences seeping back into you at the same time that you're
Oh
guiding
well,
them?
yeah, I would say there's a little bit of both going on. I mean, I love music. I love all kinds of music, so I can't help but have what I've listened to, what I've even stuff that I've not tried to be influenced by seeping in.
Mhm.
Any Newfoundland songwriter, whether they've listened to Ron Hines or not, is influenced by Ron Hines. So where part of it's where I come from, I can't help but have the storyteller in me,
Mhm.
because that's how I learned how to write songs, because everybody around me that's how we did it. So um so that's part of, so trying to reconcile the storyteller thing with trying to make like funky groovy music,
Mhm.
you know kind of puts you in this strange middle, I don't know, strange gray area, which is wonderful because you could go anywhere from that. You could make a folk song that has a New Orleans groove to it, like,
Yeah.
and the possibilities are endless. That's kind of when I started out, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do exactly that. And Vampire Hotel was that. It was a bunch of stories with, as best we could, some New Orleans funk R&B influenced stuff on it. And that's what I tried to do. And then from there, I tried to go a little bit more, I don't know. I don't even know what you'd call it. I mean, all I know is when Wolfpack came out, I was like, that's it. I've missed it. That's the thing that I wanted to do. There it is. But then I looked at him. I'm like, I'm not those guys.
Mhm.
So I have to, lean into something else that I've got going on, because I can't do that. So
And you had mentioned your wife already,
Mhm.
but, Victoria Howse,
That's right.
so a musician as well?
She is a, um, she would never call herself a musician, but she is. And
I've
she,
run into a couple of those people in my
yeah,
networking. I'm like, "Oh, you're blah, blah, blah." "No, I'm not a musician." I'm like, "But I've seen you before."
yeah. So uh, she has played piano her whole life. She has played guitar for years and years and years. Um, and she's just not a pro musician, but she's a songwriter as well, and we've co-written um, many songs that we've co-written have been released. So she may not call herself a musician, but she better call herself a songwriter.
Sure, sure. That's a fair distinction, I suppose.
Yeah.
And the song, the Closer to You Again, is that personal anecdote built in there?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Close to You Again is, well, that was our, the big break song, the big COVID song. We, like most couples, just found ourselves sitting around the house, um, getting, getting bored and getting, um, getting tired of each other.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were like, Victoria said, we have to do something um fun because we're just sitting around staring at each other. This is ridiculous. So we yeah, we wrote the song about, we took our own feelings about the whole situation, about wanting to see certain people again. Like Victoria has a lot of family around in Nova Scotia. We are both from Newfoundland, but her family moved to Nova Scotia when she was in university. So so a lot of her family is here, and she couldn't see him.
Mhm,
So so we started with that, and then we kind of turned it into like maybe this could be, we just started painting a little bit more of a story that could be that could fit with a relationship story about someone like, we didn't want it to be tied to the pandemic.
mhm.
So it's just something that, like, people maybe leaving something unsaid or undone, and something happened. It could be anything that separates those people, be it someone move away for work, whatever, or pandemic. And then there'd just be this regret, that, that you don't have the opportunity to finish or fix something. And that's how that song came about. And it started from a true story, but
Mhm.
they say don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it too, because I know the timing of it, and I know a little bit of the history, and I still didn't relate it as a COVID song, like,
Well, I mean,
eh
the worst thing we could do was have it be a COVID song, because I mean, COVID wasn't even, it's still not over, but like,
right.
the hard times of the pandemic weren't even over, and people were still sick of hearing about it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we didn't
absolutely.
want we didn't want um the song to,
You don't wanna be triggering when it pops up on the
yeah,
radio.
exactly. Because I mean, it's a sweet song. I'm really proud of it. I play it pretty much every show, and when Victoria's around, she usually gets up and sings it with me.
Awesome.
Um, so it did exactly what we needed it to, which was just be just a sweet little love song that was a sign of the times. But you know, uh, COVID did this for a lot of us, and as songwriters, we talk about this a lot. COVID really opened our eyes to, like, just how the world works in general, you know?
Mhm.
So all these, like, these are not new problems. They're just exacerbated problems.
Exactly.
So,
And now you mentioned that, performing live.
mhm.
So I am curious too, where you've spent a lot of time on the production end, and I mentioned where I can kinda hear a Chris Kirby sound that's developed over time. It's definitely a production sound that I'm referring to.
Right.
So, I'm not somebody that works on that end, so 100% appreciate all the little nuances that go into crafting a sound like that, but I also realize it's very hard to translate some of that to a live performance.
Yeah.
I've seen some people that are excellent at producing a really great song, and when they perform it live, it's not that the song's not good now, it's just that it does not sound the way it does when they have time to tweak everything a little bit.
Yeah.
So, how do you find translating that, and how much live performing do you do these days?
Well, I don't. I'll start with the easy part. I don't do a lot of live performing. I am about to do the. I'm doing the Megan Smith Christmas shows and the Matt Andersen Christmas tour, and they're letting me both are letting me sing one of my songs in that show. So
Mhm.
there's there's that. That's probably the most that I will have done in a while. Um, and I'm looking at doing more as I look at maybe doing another recording project. I'll look to do some more stuff to support that. But that's just that changes. I'll want
Oh,
to
yeah.
do a full tour and then I'll never want to get on a stage again. But like you can't turn it off. You just and not that I'd never want to go on a stage again. It's just that I would feel like it's more realistic to be the behind the scenes guy. Um,
Sure.
but but I love it. I love I love performing. I love what I get from an audience. And part of that is leading into the other part of your question. Um, the fact that it is different. I love that.
Mhm.
I don't like I know some people want to go to a concert and see the record, but I'm not like that at all. In fact, I feel like music is all about moments, right?
Mhm.
So if you're just if you're going to a concert and you're seeing the record, then why didn't you just put the record on, right?
Absolutely. I just complimented a band on that I was like, "Wow, like that." I knew the songs, but they didn't sound the same at all. They
Yeah,
had completely different instrumentation and everything, so, like,
and
there's a
it's
place
a
for it.
yeah. There's definitely a place for it, and you know, sometimes you do want to hear the like particular things and arrangements, of course, but like a record is gonna like live for like that. You're not gonna be able to change that moment, right?
Mhm.
People are gonna relive it. So you get this luxury of making it as perfect as you can without ruining it, because if you strive for perfection, you will no doubt kill the soul of it at some point. But um, but concerts are meant to be unique moments where like if you saw an artist the next night, you would have a different experience. This is why people keep coming back to see artists again and again, because they know that they're gonna get something new, and they're gonna get
Mhm.
some new moment that they hold on to from that. So um that's what I love about it. It is the live show is its own thing, and that is the essence of music and entertainment, right? Like that's the thing. People go to shows not to listen; they go to shows to watch. So something is going to happen. It's going to happen there to create a memory, and if it sounds excellent, and there's some visual thing that they remember, then that's it. That's the entertainer's job, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then so that those are the two businesses. Like people say, like when people say they're in the music business, what the music business, I'm in the music business. I make recordings for people. Performers on stage, they're in the entertainment business.
Yes.
You know, that's a that's a bit of a simplification, of course, but that's how I see it. So they're two different worlds.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I actually I won't get into the nuances of the conversation, but a couple local artists have had similar conversations with me because they are aware of the style that they perform with versus some of the stuff I'm exposed to when I'm on the road.
Oh yeah.
And so that definitely comes up about, the difference there between an entertainer and a musician, and a lot of them are both, but there is those are 2 different hats to wear.
Well, there's a reason why. I mean, if you go to Nashville, they'll tell you that um, the usually the touring musicians aren't don't go in the studio, and vice
Hmm.
versa. Like
Yeah, yeah.
the goal is for for a lot of, I mean, maybe it's different now, I don't know, but the goal was to get to be a studio musician, because then you could work every day at music and never leave home.
Hmm.
So, I mean, when I first heard it, they said like the A-listers are in the studio and the B-listers are kind of split their time, and the C-listers are the ones on the road. So like, as good as you think that band is at the show, wait till you'll hear the guys at the studio play.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. And I'm sure that it's evolving and changing with all the digital stuff. And I mean, you get to add in whole social media and graphic design careers, your third hat nowadays. So
Yeah, well, and I am one of those people that wear that extra hat too. You know,
hmm.
I still do some software work for music production software,
Hmm.
and and Victoria and I run a songwriting camp that we're doing one in January, um, and it's going to be it was a songwriting camp that was for artists that I will be working with in studio,
Hmm.
but we've just incorporated an educational aspect, and we're trying to make it, this is our like benchmark one, I would say, and we're trying to make it a camp that travels all through all four Atlantic provinces,
Oh, cool.
similar to ECMA's rotation. um like I said, this is our first one, so we have a lot of learning to do.
Hmm.
uh, but uh how, yeah,
You're starting in New Brunswick. You're in Nova Scotia now. You're based in
yeah,
Nova Scotia, and you're from Newfoundland.
that's right.
And you're the first of the camps is in New
Yeah.
Brunswick.
So we're starting in New Brunswick because we partnered with a non-for-profit company that works with youth in the arts and technology.
Awesome.
Uh, and they're in New Brunswick, and they had a connection to, well, the person that we're working with specifically, he's got a connection to St. Andrews. So we found a venue, and we got all of our people interested in it, and um yeah, we're going there for a week, and we're gonna give a public master class, we're gonna give a little songwriter circle show, and then behind the scenes we're gonna be working all day for 4 days or 5 days, um, and getting some content for a couple of artists, and teaching these kids who want to be songwriters but not artists. They want to, so our spin on it is that we're teaching the craft and the business of songwriting, and to like sort of to train the next, the people who will be people like me, who are mostly behind the scenes.
Hmm.
So which is lovely. It's a great feeling to know that people are interested in that, and when they hear that, like, you can be a songwriter and you don't need to go on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like you say, those are two different things. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I've sort of we have sort of fallen into this like educational role as well, which I love. It's I'm nervous about it because I used to teach music lessons to get myself through university, but
Hmm.
that's that was a long time ago. So this will be a learning experience for me as well, because it'll be my first time working with youth. I mean, they're they're like 18 years old, so they're not children,
Hmm.
um but yeah, it's exciting.
And is that something that's like, how do people get involved if they want to participate in that? And
Yeah, if anybody's interested in getting, they're called Funk Island Labs songwriting camps, for one thing. Funk Island Labs is where I am right now. This is, well,
okay, nice
Funk
setup.
Island Funk Island Lab, I should say. It's singular because there's
Hmm.
only one lab. Um, but that's the name of the songwriting camp, and Funk Island Lab is on Instagram. But of course, my website has my email and all that stuff on it. And I've already had a bunch of people email me about getting involved in future camps. Um,
Excellent.
and they're and I'll tell anybody interested what I've told people in the past. You get in touch with me, we have a conversation, you go on the list, and then, you know, next time we're looking at who's good for the camp, you might get picked, because we, depending on who's there, like
Yeah.
depending on who the artists are or where we're going or whatever, you know, you might be perfect for that particular camp.
Awesome. Outside of the camp, what else do you have coming up? You mentioned a Christmas
Right.
project.
Yeah. So the Christmas project, last week, I got a message from my publisher saying that there was a song that I had written on spec for a pitch last year. It was for a Christmas movie last year. And they didn't have this type of thing. So I tried to write it. I literally wrote it in an hour in my pajamas, sent it in. They liked it. So then I did a cleaner version of it, still just a very basic, like me solo with my guitar. But it made it into this scene in this movie. But then this year I heard that it got like a really good placement in a Hallmark movie. But it's it's actually like a vocal feature, so it's not background where there's dialogue over it. It's going to be over this scene and you'll hear me singing. So I thought, geez, I better release this song, because if people listen to it and they like it, they're going to Shazam it or whatever,
Hmm.
go looking for it. So yeah, so I scramble. I don't know when it's even going to be out. Somewhere between December 1st and the week after that is what the app told me when I plugged it in. So
Yeah.
we'll
What's
see.
the title of that song?
The title of the song is "In the Magic with You." So yeah, it's not super not super obviously Christmas, uh, with the exception of a few like holiday lyrics. So it's strange. I don't even know how to talk about it because I forgot about the song, and
Oh yeah.
it's very outside of what I normally do. So I was like, should I release this under a different name? Like, should I have another like a side project where I do Christmas music? I don't know. Anyway, we'll see.
I
I may do that.
From having a recent string of Christmas themed episodes, I'm fairly confident that the artists that are out there doing Christmas music, that their Christmas music does not sound like what they
Oh,
do the other 11 months of the year or whatever. So I think you're following suit as far as what the others are doing out
well,
there.
maybe your viewers and listeners will check it out and let me know if I should keep it attached to my name or not.
There you go. And I do want to do a quick little mention. As I said, your name came up a few times. I believe Dee Dee Austin dropped your name in an interview
Yeah,
recently. So
yeah.
you
So
have stuff coming?
no, that's out.
Okay.
So Dee Dee just released an EP.
Yep.
She worked with a different producer. She worked with Corey LaRue for the EP, but she included in the EP, she included the single that we worked on together. We co-wrote and I produced it. That song is called Natural Born Original. We've
Hmm.
got some other songs that we wrote as well that I think we'll work on releasing in the coming year, but I was really busy and I was on the road, and she wanted to get an EP done, so she like went elsewhere to get the EP done, and I think she made a great choice. I mean, it sounds exactly what I know she wanted. So so kudos to her and Corey for bringing that vision to life.
I think you and Corey are like the two names that I hear most often as far as like, oh, and I blah blah blah. I maybe not as much probably in 2023, but in 2022 I probably heard classified
Yeah.
every other artist. But yeah, for 2023, I keep hearing Chris Kirby and Corey LaRue over and over and over again. So
Which is
that's
hilarious because
good sign.
we're longtime friends, Corey and I.
That's awesome.
When I first met Corey, this is hilarious. When I first met Corey, he was a student at NSCC, and he was just kicking around doing gopher stuff at the studio when I was making Charlie Acort's record.
Oh wow.
So essentially, he was my like second or third assistant engineer
Yeah.
project, and then like maybe 2 years later, he was like the biggest thing going. I was like, yeah, Corey, wicked.
And that's a special note for people out there. And I'm sure all of the fans of the show are great people, so it's not really a problem. But be careful how you treat people because you don't know. You could very easily like tear into Corey because like he knocked over a coffee or something in the studio, and then like a year later, you're like, damn, I really shouldn't have burnt that bridge with that guy.
Well, luckily there was none of that. In fact, we hit it off right away. So
Perfect.
we were friends from the moment I met the guy, and I'm a big fan of everything that he does. And we've worked together on. He's produced some stuff that I've co-written with other people. We've had writing sessions together. We've been palling around at songwriting camps and stuff like that before. So yeah, he's I'm really proud of that guy.
No, it's a great time for the industry anyway, I think, in our region. But it's great to hear. I mean, I want to hear everyone's name pop up at least once, but it's great to hear the same names popping up over and over again because you can tell that people are
Yeah,
doing well and starting to move forward, get a bigger audience.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what you want, the name recognition from our region as well. Like, not just that we have East Coast music, but what East Coast music has changed over the last couple decades. So it's harder to really define what that means other than say music from that side of the country. So
yeah.
I'm really enjoying to hear names popping up. And now I know Chris Kirby. So when people mention the name, well, yeah, I know that guy.
Nice. Well, it's my name doesn't. I don't. Maybe I'm oblivious to it, but I don't feel like my name like gets. It might get you a black horse at the ship once in a while, but
There you go.
I don't feel my name is that heavy a drop. But I don't know. Maybe I'm oblivious to how nice people speak about me. I don't know.
And well, outside of the Christmas shows that you'll be performing at and the sync licensing that we were just talking about, and the Closer to You Again single that we had mentioned, and the songwriters camps that are coming up that will in the future be touring around the provinces. Outside of all of those things and the extra producing and co-writing that you were doing, is there a follow-up album to come with, like, you
People
have a
are
single that's floating in between albums?
Well, people are pushing. I do have songs. You know what? I've recorded two songs that was gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna do a single and a B side, whatever that means these days. I'm gonna put them out, and I had people here. I had great musicians here, and I recorded it. And before I could back it up, my hard drive crashed.
Oh no.
I lost it, and and it's crazy because I was working on a few things at the time, and the only thing that wasn't backed up was my stuff.
Oh
I,
no.
Luckily, everybody else, like the stuff that people were paying me to do, all that stuff I recovered because I had duplicates on other drives. But for some reason, I missed this one,
Hmm.
and it was mine. So I took a step back, but I have. So the answer is I've been working on it. I've
Hmm.
been I just don't get much time to really focus on it because it's a great problem to have, but I got a lot of stuff going on. I got a lot of projects that people are waiting on me on.
Hmm.
And this was a really weird fall. Some not serious, but health stuff like put a damper on a lot of stuff that I had going on. So I'm in one of those positions where like, okay, everything is overdue now, and like I gotta like sort of rob Peter to pay Paul in terms of scheduling to get stuff
Hmm.
out the door. And you gotta wait a little bit longer. Sorry, now it's your turn to wait. But that's that's the position that I find myself in. So when everybody else is taken care of, my music hasn't been touched.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
so
something to look forward to, but we need
I
to
hope
free up
so.
some
Yeah.
time.
No, and I've been talking to lots of people about it. Like, people are excited to play, you know, what new material I do have coming up. So something's going to happen. I just can't tell you when. I mean, it took me like almost 4 years to make my last record.
Yeah.
You know, I was working on, I did it twice. I recorded it here, and then it just wasn't shaking out the way I wanted it to. So I went home to Newfoundland and I re-recorded it there.
Okay.
So that 2019 record, I mean, that really, I think that record started in 2016, and it took me 3 years to finish it.
Well,
So,
I'm going to count, because the Closer to You Again actually came out in 21.
yeah.
So I'm going to count 2 years in. So you're due an album within the next 24 months.
Oh my God. Okay.
That's your new timeline.
All right.
Hopefully it's a 2024.
Yeah.
But we'll accept a 2025 album.
Okay. All right. I'll see what I can do.
And where should we be directing people that want to follow you online and see how you're progressing with that, and
Sure.
what kind of
Well,
traction you get with your Christmas?
yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, everything, I you know, I do have Facebook. Chris Kirby Music is my Facebook thing. Pretty much the only thing that I actually post on is Instagram, and then, like, you know, anything on Facebook is just a repost from Instagram. So Instagram is Chris effin Kirby. That's my handle. And chriskirbyonline.com is my website. Hasn't been updated in a while. I haven't even looked at it in a while, so maybe it's been hijacked. So everybody go there and let me know how it's doing.
And your Bandcamp actually has merch listed on it. I've noticed that most people do, but I've noticed the last 6 months or so, most people that I've been talking to that have Bandcamp pages, there's not really anything left. Like, the inventory has been dwindling the last year or two.
Oh yeah, I don't push my Bandcamp very much. In fact, I forget I have it. But if you like, there's a link from my if you want to buy stuff from my website, it jumps off the website to Bandcamp. So
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's all about me.
Perfect. So is there a song that you want to play out with to give people a taste of Chris Kirby if they are not already familiar?
Sure. Let's go with I know it is Christmas, but we've talked about Close to You Again a bunch. I feel like that's, you know, we're now getting to a place where we are getting close to people again. So I feel like I want people to hear that.
Perfect. All right. So for anyone that's still following along at this end of the interview, stay tuned and we'll play Close to You Again. And if you're looking for more information on Chris, look in the description below for some links, or you can hit subscribe to East Coast DNA, and hopefully we'll have Chris back on in the new year.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for your time, Chris, and we'll be talking soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Put my arms around you, and I'll tell you that the distance made my heart grow for you. We would throw a party, end up singing in the kitchen, and we'll all laugh about it, just like old times again. All day long I'm thinking about you, and when the sun goes down, you're in my dreams too. All this hurt and pain, I promise you, it will fade away when I'm close to you again. I ain't proud of how we left you. Thought I wanted time alone, then the world stopped spinning. I learned a few things on my own. Here's the silver lining, here's our chance for new beginnings. We can't help bad timing, so here's the second chances.